to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another special message from the Ancient Ones. My name is Dr. Mumbi Seraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your, on your own terms. Yeah, we want to give thanks and praise to every single person that has supported us on this channel, that has also just supported us spiritually with your prayers, your good wishes, everyone that emails us, Dr. Mumbi at drmumbishow.com. And most importantly, we give all thanks and praise to the Most High, Mwene Nyaga Mwene Hinya, which means the one, the dazzling one, or the one of absolute power, who is who, our ancestors used to worship. We give that entity, the creator. They say God is a black woman, but those are definitely stories for other days. People ain't ready. So, I never even thought to ask this question, beloveds. I always assumed that the ancient ones basically meant they were here a long, long time ago. But I was meditating on that because some people were telling me, can you tell us the difference between ancient ones, ancestors, chosen ones, avatars? And, when I was meditating, I realized the ancient ones, beloveds, when this invasion happened on this melanated planet back in the day, there are those that went into other lands. There are those that spiritually left their bodies because they didn't want to contaminate themselves with the, I hate to call it the wickedness and evil season that would come, that would come for a season. So some chose to literally ascend. Like you see the way they say, there's some biblical examples. And I give biblical examples because that's what most people know. Like the way, Yeshua ascended to the heavens. Or there's one Elijah or Elisha who just, rapidly vanished. So many of our ancient ones and many who held the secrets, the secret codes, the higher codes, the knowledge that the universal crusaders have always been looking for. Many of those went into, I wouldn't even call it hiding, but they left this because they did not want to experience that. They did not want to have their conscience fragmented to such a low level. And there are those who chose to remain. So by the time Babylon came, because they saw this coming way before, that's why they left us warnings of this darkness that would come, whatever you want to call them. These wicked ones who would literally try and, harvest the planet for its energy, for each and every person's chi, and they would try and create a prison planet, etc., etc. But they underestimated Mama Earth. So they left, beloveds, with all the knowledge that would literally, have given these people like absolute global power. Because you see, this world was fashioned and created by the air, water, earth, and fire kingdoms that we know of right now. Maybe other kingdoms participated as well, but those were the major those were the major nations that came to put this together, and each contributed their secrets, each contributed their power, and each also put their gateway to their world, so that it was like an international school. Can I put it like that? Where, the fire kingdom came and they could mingle with the water kingdom, they could mingle with the air kingdom, they could mingle with the earth kingdom. And if they reached a certain level of consciousness, they could also venture into the fire kingdom or venture into the air kingdom or venture into the water kingdom and kind of check it out and live their life and come back to themselves. So there were many gateways here, and maybe there are other gateway planets out there. You see, anything Babylon says is so distorted. So I try to just go on my own vibe. So I'm not sure planets, whatever. But what I do know is that there are gateways to all these kingdoms here. So there were many secrets here, even to create and construct those gateways, they had to create their own, keys, etc., etc. So there were a lot of keys. And then there were guardians for each kingdom. So the water kingdom had their guardians, the fire nations had their guardians, because even royalty, I mean, this place was so good. Like even royalty wanted to pull up and come through and just live a normal life, And even royal priesthood, people would come and experience that. Some in hiding, cloaking their true spiritual identity, and some coming as who they were in the spiritual world and coming and doing magnificent things here. So they saw the invasion coming from a mile away, and they shut down many of the gateways, which the dark overlords are trying to, use for nefarious reasons right now, or have been. But the most of them were cut. They weren't able to penetrate those other worlds because they have to have certain powers. But that's why the final battle is here, beloveds. So who are the ancient ones? That was just a bit of a backstory. The ancient ones are the ones that chose to depart for a season with all the necessary knowledge and wisdom and power, and then stand watch for such a time as this, when they would come back to reset the system. And Babylon has known that. That's why they have all these stories of killing the firstborn in Egypt, and, King Herod killing everyone because he knew Yeshua was coming. All of these are just symbols, etc., beloveds, because they knew the great return would happen. And you see, it had to happen. We are like the swing generation, but the ancient ones, they went with all the knowledge. They didn't experience Babylon until now. Let's take a short break. We'll be back.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Welcome back, beloveds, to a special message from the Ancient Ones. My name is Dr. Mumbi Seraki. So who are the Ancient Ones, beloveds? They're not just the architects of this time. They're the ones who created and lived in great kingdoms and queendoms that we don't even know about, that chose to depart when they saw that Babylon train approaching. They're like, hell nah, we out. And they've been watching and waiting because they had the codes. They were the ones that Babylon was coming from, because you see, it's like there's been a crusade looking for certain powers to dominate the world by lower vibe beings. They're always trying to penetrate the heavens, which means go to those higher level realities by kind of jinxing the system, or, they think it's like a computer where they're hacking the system. They want to hack their way into heaven. It can't happen because you can't fake vibration. And so the ancient ones are the ones who, they didn't experience Babylon. They saw Babylon coming. They left all the signs, however you want to put it, the wall paintings, all the signs they could, the stories, the parables for their people. And then they checked out. And that's different from the ancestors, because the ancestors, they've come here, reincarnated several times. But I'll do a separate show on the ancestors. And so the ancient ones had all that knowledge, all those codes, all those powers. And they couldn't be here in the beast system because they were the ultimate target. But you see, now we switched over. And many don't believe it, but Babylon has fallen, beloveds. And in this season, where the God of this age is the God of truth, if you want to put it that way, like The power of positive is way more powerful than the power of negative. If I can put it, the power of good is way more powerful than the power of evil now. And so in this season, a lot of ancient ones chose to come back because even with those quotes, there was no way they could be taken out. There's no way they could die, literally, beloveds. There's no way they could be targeted by Babylon. And they came where the veil was thin enough where they would immediately connect to their spiritual team and be guided as spiritual warriors here to reset the system. Because that season and time that they saw coming of terrible, diabolical wickedness has come and it has gone. And it's time for those codes to be unleashed. Because there's so much that was hidden from what we see with our two eyes, beloveds. Some you can see if you enter certain places with your first eye, you can see many of the things that have been hidden, but there's so much that's been hidden. This is not the way the world looked during the time of the ancient ones. It was way more magical, like Avatar vibes. You know, the movie Avatar, like that kind of like almost fantastical. And it's still extremely beautiful. You know, I'm not knocking nature, hey. But the ancient ones, they made that sacrifice of, you know, carrying that knowledge. And once in a while, they would send avatars to come and try and, you know, awaken people so and to keep that gene going. But now, many have come back. And many are in Zion, beloveds. There are also those, you know, there are also those spread across, because the melanated nations were everywhere. But it's more about pure bloodlines because the ancient ones can only come through the purest bloodline so that they can pick up those signatures from where they came from in order to penetrate. And so those ancient ones are showing up mainly in Zion, but also among those who have done the spiritual work and cleaned up their bloodlines of the lower vibrational kind of, you know, beings that were attached to it. And that has now connected them to those higher level bloodlines. And those are the codes that the ancient ones have used to come in. And some of the ancient ones, you know, you'll see like most of them, beloveds, actually were born into single parents. Or, you know, the mother and father hooked up and then it never went anywhere. And the mother went on to live their life and the father went to live their life. But it was because they needed those particular genes to connect so they could penetrate. They're not as emotional as us about marriage and children out of wedlock and all this nonsense. They had to come in. And you see, they had to choose the highest bloodlines so that they could come in with the highest gifts, the highest powers, even if they were dormant, so that those could be activated. Because you can only come in through the vibration of, you know, the bloodlines that those people carry, that your mother and father carry. And so the ancient ones chose certain bloodlines, which they were the originals of, to come back in. And you see, it's all about connecting back to that world, resetting this world just by their presence alone. Many ancient ones are watching me now, and you're going to go on to do absolutely marvelous and magnificent things. But all of that is kind of being kept secret and hush hush because the enemy of our soul has found a way to even monitor people's thoughts, beloveds. But they can't monitor what's in your heart and what's in your spirit. That's a communication line they can never get access to. And so a lot of us ancient ones are on a need to know basis in terms of what we should be doing next. And that's why, you know, when you get an instruction, because it's like you're here as an army general of an army that's back there, here to put back a world, to start to set the foundations, because Many more are coming from that ancient time because it's back. The world is resetting herself. But we have to also work with the world to reset itself. And so many of the ancient ones are here, and there's so many powers dormant inside of them that they may not even know. But they're going to have like an accelerated process. Who are the ancient ones in human form? Maybe I'll do a separate video on that. But the ancient ones, they used to be on earth before all this craziness happened. They never went through Babylon. They never bowed to Babylon. They'd rather have left, and that's exactly what they did. Tuko pamoja.